Welcome back to Things You Wouldn't Ask in Class. My name is Lindsay Boyson.
I'm Veronica Afonso.
And we're answering the questions that you wouldn't ask in class. This is a great question, and actually one that I had when I started university as well. So a lecture, you may have sort of a notion of what a lecture looks like. It usually takes place maybe in a larger room. There's going to be more students, and the professor may or may not, most likely, is located at the front of the room, and they are dispensing knowledge. Maybe there's a PowerPoint behind them or something along those lines. So we have that image of what it looks like. Now, in an online environment, if you're taking an online course, that lecture can look a little different. So it may be a video of the professor speaking, so what they may have been presenting at the front of the class, but it may also take the form of like long form writing. So the faculty member has sort of translated what they would have spoken, what they would have presented, into what could be called the module or the weekly content or something along those lines. So something that you'll be reading. I can speak to the experience of a seminar, both online and offline. So an offline seminar is a smaller group. So that's where you're going to be engaging with a smaller group of students, potentially the faculty member, potentially a teaching assistant, depending on the course. And you're going to be talking about the readings or the material that you're learning in class, or possibly even more around the discipline. So how you actually study the discipline that you're learning about. So how do you study history? How do you study English? Those conversations would be happening in a smaller group, so you can feel a bit more comfortable asking and answering questions in that format. And Veronica, you're going to have to speak to labs.
Okay, so we're going from lecture, a more passive form of learning, to seminar. We're getting a little more active and engaging with the material. And lab, we're fully engaging with the material. So now you're interacting with the actual concepts in a very practical manner. So you may have learned about a Bunsen burner in lecture. You might have talked about it in seminar, how to turn it on. And now in lab, you're actually plugging it in and lighting that Bunsen burner up. And then maybe mixing some chemicals. So that's like the traditional view of a lab. But a lab can come in another form. For example, in Math 1070, a lab is actually engaging with trying to teach someone else how to do a math problem by using a piece of drawing out like 2 + 3 in maybe apples and oranges. So that too can be a lab.
And for an online seminar, I forgot. An online seminar can take the form of maybe a discussion board where you were chatting with your classmates in a discussion. It's a shorter form kind of written content. That's typically how an online seminar would look.
And likewise, online labs, that is a thing. You're still engaging with the material in a meaningful skill developing aspect where you're going to be asked to perform some sort of operation on a platform that's probably linked up to your textbook and has been actually formulated.
The first thing is not to panic. Try your very best not to engage in negative self-talk about it. Take a step back and take a breath. There are lots of opportunities through Nipissing University to get help. And I would encourage you to make use of as many supports as possible until you feel confident with the material. So your faculty member, we talked about how to contact your faculty member. We've talked about the syllabus and how you can find your faculty member's contact information and office hours there. We know that faculty member office hours are underutilized, really, and they're a fantastic resource that really isn't tapped into all that often. In fact, any faculty member I've spoken to really talks about loving it, when students do drop by for those opportunities. Likewise, we have academic supports like myself and Veronica, and we're available, for one-on-one conversations. We offer large group live support. We offer drop-in support, pre-booked appointments. We're trying to meet you along the way wherever you are at, and meeting you in the most responsive way possible. But for me, the key, if you're not understanding, is accepting that help is available and that you deserve that help, and trying not to engage in negative self-talk because you're not understanding something that, it's probably a difficult concept, and this is new. No one's expecting you to come in knowing all of the things.
And maybe your starting point isn't necessarily the textbook. Well, we got this great thing called the Google machine. You can Google, start somewhere simple, like I just recently learned about calculus limits, and I actually started with this website called Math is Fun, and it is geared for a young high school student. Yeah. And that's where I had to start. I couldn't go to my calculus textbook. And in fact, I still won't go to my calculus textbook. But that's where my starting point had to be, was to start at something that I can understand and they're moving slow and not in a video format. For me, I like that kind of tangible website. But also, Google's great for looking up videos. And in terms of looking up videos, don't choose the one that has like 300 views. Choose the one that has like 100,000K, 1 million. If you find the videos that have 1 million views, that's the one you should be watching.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Try and set yourself up for success and try to give yourself boosts of confidence along the way. Yes.
Where would you find out about that? Would that be syllabus?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's all, in high school or other areas of learning, you may have heard about late marks and that kind of thing. And yeah, they are real. You will find out about that through your course syllabus. Your faculty members' policy on late assignments will be in there. I've seen everything from 10% per day. I've seen variations of what that late policy is, but always find out what that policy is. And if you think you're going to be late on an assignment, don't ask for an extension like the day before. Like, we want to be planning ahead. I mentioned before, your syllabus, you get that the first week of class. As much as possible, extenuating circumstances, notwithstanding, as much as possible, plan ahead so that if there's going to be a problem with you balancing your time and making it for those deadlines.
What a quick aside question related to this is what happens if your test is at 9:00, your alarm goes off at 10:15, and you've missed your test? What do you do, Lindsay?
If you miss a test, that's devastating and a terrible nightmare for a lot of students. Number one, definitely do everything you can to avoid that. Number two, you are going straight to your faculty member to have that conversation. Don't bother doing your hair or doing anything. Just get yourself in touch with your faculty member to deal with that as soon as possible.
Great advice, as soon as possible. I'm going to pass.
It's okay in this context. No, so I think one of the things that, as a formerly shy person in a lecture hall, I know that this was my most terrifying thought, the idea that I could get called on in class, and certainly that does happen. I know most faculty members, as they get to know people, they kind of gauge different students' comfort with being called on, but they're also going to challenge you. So although they may not call on you right away, if they know you to be someone who isn't necessarily down for that, you can probably anticipate it at some point in your academic experience as they try to help you build your confidence. So passing is not so much a thing. Because, they want you to be coming to class ready to speak to different things. So from my perspective, and the things that help the most for students that I work with is going to class prepared. Going to class, having an understanding of the readings, knowing what was going on in the novel that you were tasked with, having read the journal article that you were asked to read. They're not going to ask you questions that are completely out of the blue. They're asking you questions based on the things that they have asked you to do. So if you're thinking about how do I prioritize what I should be doing in a week, making sure that you're going to class prepared, that's among the top priorities, especially if you feel shy and you're not feeling super confident with your material or with going to class.
And back when I was professoring, I was one of those who would not let students pass. Like, eventually I was going to get you to talk. And the way that I would go about it, which I'm sure a lot of professors do, is there's that encouragement. So I'll get you to, I'll ask you the big question. Then I'll just, if you're freezing, then I'll actually start asking you little small questions to get you talking. So there will be that leading the student down the garden path. Okay. The other tip I've had students do, which I really appreciated as a professor, is they would turn it around and ask me a question. Well, I'm not really sure what you, and then you can actually get the professor to start talking about something that's like completely on a tangent, and next thing you know, you didn't have to answer.
Another strategy, rather than waiting for the professor to call on you, is maybe have your hand up for something you do feel confident for. So sort of getting it out of the way.
Yeah.
If you know that there's something that you're feeling good about that you want to speak to, maybe that's when you have your hand up to speak.
Oh, that's a great tip, Lindsay.
Thank you. Well, this is where that syllabus comes in. Your faculty member's policy toward it's not a phone, it's a calculator.
Well, it's a calculator, but it's a phone.
So your faculty member's policy for technology will likely be found in the course syllabus. And it may cover certain elements of technology. Maybe you're not allowed to have your cell phone in class, but you are allowed to have a laptop. Maybe you are not allowed to have a laptop or a cell phone, but you can have your calculator. Maybe you're allowed to have all of the things, but keep your phone on silent, that kind of thing. They may be asking you just to be respectful with the use of technology, so not texting in class, that kind of thing. But certainly, again, asking your faculty, especially if you have an extenuating circumstance, maybe a kid who's in childcare and you want to have your phone nearby just in case. Having that conversation with the faculty member will likely go a long way. And certainly, this doesn't apply when there are actual documented accommodations. So if you have an accommodation to make use of a cell phone or laptop or whatever it may be, obviously that doesn't apply here. In terms of eating in class, again, yes, thank you for the demonstration. Again, like, obviously being respectful with the food that you're choosing to consume. I've certainly been at the front of lecture halls where people have chosen the loudest food that they could have chosen. So being mindful of that, also being mindful of common allergens. So now's not the time to pull out, a peanut butter sandwich or a tuna sandwich or whatever. Like, if you're going to eat in class, number one, like, be respectful and be mindful of others that are around you.